Welcome to Ball Street, welcome to Social Club. We are building our team of the season this week at centre-backs. Those of you who watched the previous parts will know that we're playing 3 at the back, which means this week you're picking your 3 centre-halves. Let's get stuck straight into it then. From the panel, are there any players who've played centre-half in the Premier League this season we think are absolute shoo-ins, without a shadow of a doubt, need to be included in the vote?
Yeah.
Mr. Pager.
Lucas Leiva. Why are you laughing?
You know what?
For me, Gary Cahill for me, mate.
Gary Cahill?
Yeah, Bob. He's
Any bias in
not
that?
a fashionable choice.
No bias there. No bias there. Even though he's came from the Villa Academy, but he's
crap.
He's like of a decent age.
Yeah,
and he's been killing it in that centre back. He's basically took John Terry, headbutted him out of the team, and just been like, right, you staying on the bench, and that takes some doing for a lad from the Midlands, and I'd like quite a, quite
what did that go against?
A lad from the Midlands had quite a steady upbringing in football. I mean, at Bolton and that, fair play to him. He smashed it, and he's like 33, 34, and he's still killing it, and got another Premier League title. Fair play. You wouldn't think that, would you?
I'll be honest. I think it's not a fashionable choice, Gary Cahill, but I don't think you can argue with how he's performed this season. He scored 6 goals from centre half.
Yeah,
he's in the team that's considered albeit the second least goals. Again, title winners. It's the contribution of both ends. A centre half who scores goals as well as helps keep them out.
3,000 minutes as well, like 34 games. That takes some doing at his age, and that's what you need in centre.
I don't think he's as old as you think. He's only like 32 or something.
No, but still.
How is he walking?
How is he still going?
He's like 34 years old. We're talking about him like he's an old man.
But also, he's 34 games. That's pretty good for a centre-back, given the context of like Tottenham centre-backs as well, and Van Dijk as well, who's a young player, only played 21 games.
No European football.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Van Dijk's had no European football either.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And Tottenham basically didn't really have European football.
31. 31. 3 years younger than me.
Basically a kid.
Basically a child.
Do you know what? I don't like
Cahill.
Gary Cahill. I just don't like him. I think I'm clouded in that regard, in that he's actually played really well this season. I think that entire Chelsea backline has, but he on his own, if he was playing with another centre-back, I don't think he'd be very good. It's the fact that Chelsea defence and that team is kind of built as a togetherness there, and that's not his fault, and that means he's a good player in that system. But I just, and look, it's player of the season, so you've got to take all that into consideration. It's a fair shout, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. He's just not, I just don't think he's that good. Yeah. But in that team and in that system, he played very well.
Where do we think that stigma comes from, though? Because he's been consistently very, very good since he's been at Chelsea. Jay said, he was the
own goals, Paul.
He was good at...
He scores loads of own goals.
That's
where it comes from.
Yeah. And before it really clicked together, we've all got short memories here. At the start of the season, he was making a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. Week after week, he was making mistakes. And then it clicked for them by changing the formation exactly like you said. And I think the same goes for... And I remember doing a video earlier in the season saying who's the most overrated player. And I went David Luiz. And again, you put him in a 2, I'm not as confident about him. But in that system, when you've got Kante in front of them, he is perfect for that system. For me, I think... He is one that has to go. If you're playing 3, as we are in this team, he has to go in there. Because I think in that central position of those 3, he offers so much for Chelsea in terms of starting attacks.
He's got an ability, hasn't he?
Being on the front foot, and he's also covered by those other 2 guys. As for Lequeta, he's not as fashionable, but again, he's another one who's you can be so... certain it will do a job for you defensively, and I think Cahill's the...
Would anyone, if everyone's allowed to put one forward, would anyone be putting Azpilicueta forward as their one, though?
He's not as sexy as the others, is he? That's the thing that kind of...
Is Gary Cahill?
Yeah, generally, as centre-backs go.
I do prefer the
It's not as imposing. Again, stop talking, James.
Yeah, okay, I think I've made my point there. David Luiz, I think, is a shout... Goes back to what we're saying. Nobody expected that from David Luiz. Everyone's expected to be this absolute joke of a player still. And
errors leading to goals. How many? How many guesses without looking down?
I'm going to go for... It's got to be at least one. It's David Luiz.
0.
Really?
0.
Fair. Did you do that? Zero. You're right, okay.
0. I think he's got to go for it.
Yeah, not to be expected. Outside of that, and we've not discussed the Spurs centre-back pairing yet, Toby Alderweireld or Jan Vertonghen. Because you made us look it up before we started, because it was a good question. Spurs' best defensive record in the league, and that's largely down to them having a great defence.
It is, and again, the reason that I prefer Spurs centre-halves over Chelsea's is that I know we're playing 3 at the back in this team, but they have switched consistently between 4 at the back and 3 at the back, and that says to me that they're better defenders if they're able to do that. We saw Chelsea struggle with 4 at the back earlier on in the season. We saw those centre-backs who we're saying are our centre-backs of the season struggle in a 4. We've not seen that from the Tottenham centre-backs all season, and they've switched consistently between 3 at the back and 2 centre-halves. So for me, they should both go in there.
Yeah, I think they've switched partners as well, which is very key to have that adaptability for a centre half.
Well, that's maybe the issue over Alderweireld, is that he still played a fair amount of games. At time of filming, he's only played 27 Premier League games. When you consider some of the other guys have played, up to 35. Yeah. But again, that's a strength of Spurs, is that they've had a couple with them. We looked at this on Redmen, didn't they? And they've had Dyer dropping into the defence and what have you. Yeah. So they've been able to do that. Is a credit.
And what's great about both Chelsea and Tottenham as well is they're not losing any defensive stability when they press forward and start scoring goals. And that's what's so good about Tottenham. They've scored, I think it's 1 more goal than Liverpool this season, yet have conceded around 20 less than us, give or take. And it's amazing, whereas if Liverpool push on, we leak goals at the back.
Sure.
But when Tottenham push on, nothing changes.
Yeah. No, it's
amazing. Like,
I would say out of those two, I mean, maybe you could pick both, but out of Vertonghen and Alderweireld, throughout the season, Alderweireld has probably impressed me more. I've kind of, obviously, you can only see so much football, but the amount of sort of last-ditch tackles you see from him, Alderweireld has been incredible throughout the season. But Vertonghen against Arsenal the other week, I thought that's one of the best centre-back displays with the ball and without the ball I've seen all season.
See, I would be tempted to. I would have Vertonghen over Alderweireld if I was picking the two.
So that.
As with anything, though, again, it comes down to the partnerships of thing.
Yeah.
I think, but that's not. Unfortunately, that's not it's not up to us to pick that. That's up to the people voting, which you'll be able to do later on in the video. There's a couple of people who I think are worth a mention, but I don't think are deserving of a place in the vote in terms of top quality centre halves, and they are Virgil van Dijk and Eric Bailly. I watched some of the Man United game. It was Manchester Derby, in fact, and there's times I thought, oh, City are going to do them here, and he just effortlessly sorted it out. And when you consider what, again, Man United's defensive record for the team that's not contending for the title, I think is a credit, obviously, how Mourinho has them playing, but I think they're much better when they've got him available. He is clearly better than Chris Smalling and Phil Jones.
23 as well. Like for his first season, he's done brilliantly well.
Yeah. And the other one is Virgil van Dijk, who is obviously talk of the town this season, because he's a sensational player, and I have no doubt he would have been amongst our shoo-ins had he not had such a long spell out.
Well, that's it, isn't it? You're talking about a player of the season. He went out in January. You know, that's a large portion of the season that he's going to miss. Had he played throughout the entire season, I think you're right. I think he'd be a shoo-in, but ultimately you've got to judge him on the games that they've played, and he's not played in enough games.
Yeah. Of all the guys we're talking about here, he's got the best percentage of aerial duels, 175%, and total duels, so I guess that's feet as well. 66%, which is more than anyone else as well. But you're right, 21 games. Not enough.
If you want to be a top player, you've got to stay fit. That's the be all and end all. That's why
if you want to be a team in a season, you've got to play that.
Exactly. That's why Company's not had a shoe in the last few seasons, because he can't. So, and that's why we aren't talking about him today.
Yeah. Two.
I'd want him in that side though.
Yeah.
If you were building a Premier League 11,
you'd want him.
I'd want him in there.
Yeah. Okay. He's an absolute beast. I love his head.
So, as ever, we're trying our best to strike a balance with these, because it's not ultimately about every player who plays in the top 4 or the top 6 and what have you. And I think, James, there's a couple of really great shots. And the most obvious one is Michael Keane, first and foremost. There's not a club, to bring it back to the top 6, there's not a club in the top 6 who won't be taking a look at him this summer. And again, it's not the first appearance of Burnley players in mentions of this. Very well-disciplined unit, and he's had a great season.
Yeah, and we have spoken about Burnley a lot in the sort of defence and the goalkeepers, and that says a lot about Burnley defensively. They have been They put their bodies on the line. They've defended as a unit, defended very well, and that's why these guys have been. We have been able to say these guys, and I think he's probably been the pick of them, Michael Keane, of the whole back five of them. And you saw him step into playing for England and looked comfortable there. Obviously, they weren't sort of too difficult a set of games, but obviously he came from Man United, so he's got a bit of pedigree there, and he'll go on to play for a bigger team. That's difficult. This is the problem when it gets to, especially with defence. How much merit do you give the teams down the bottom for the kind of
because they are down the bottom for a reason, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see Michael Keane get in there because I think there should be a Burnley representative in the defence and goalkeeper, and he's been the best of them.
I think it's worth mentioning Gareth McAuley as well because he's been class, and he's weirdly enough, I know I've got a bit of a thing with age, but weirdly enough, he's like 37.
He's
and it's
so
like,
old,
he's like ridiculously old.
Age.
He's not that old.
But like for a footballer, it's just mad. So he's definitely worth a mention, and he's always there with the goals as well. He's always there. Toby must love him.
Based on stats alone, McAuley should get in there.
Yeah.
And here's the thing for me. For your centre-backs, and it's something that Liverpool have cried out for this season, we've been completely unable to do, is just being able to get on the pitch every single week as a centre-back's a massive thing. And you've got, again, a time record, Keane, 35 Premier League appearances, but Gareth McAuley, 35 as well. Not only his age, but not only that, the guy's got 6 goals this season in the Premier League. You know, he's scored important goals in amongst that as well. It would almost be, and it's tough because it's so hard to discount Spurs and it's so hard to discount Chelsea. But in any normal season, both of those guys would be strong contenders.
The flip side is like, for example, you guys bought Mignolet, didn't you? From Sunderland. That happened. He's obviously a decent shot stopper, but he seems to have bits of lapses of concentration sometimes because he's only used to being his goal being peppered. But it could be the same for these centre-backs. They could lose the concentration when they aren't getting pelted by the better teams. Could be the same for them. Michael Keane could lose.
But the teams at the top are defending a lot less.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
Well. So that's the
so that's the kind of balance you need to strike. For me, Michael Keane, when it comes to the bigger stage where he doesn't have as much to do, he's just got to stay composed, concentrated.
But the point is,
can I just poo-poo this? They've done loads of research into the goalkeeping stats, and I was down the rabbit hole of a stats website the other week, right? And it was all about how your shot percentages potentially go down the fewer shots that you're facing, and it was about time in the minute in between actions that each goalkeeper has. Doesn't make any difference whatsoever. It literally makes no, and they took a huge sample size of keepers from the top of the league to the bottom of the league, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with it. It's just one of those things that you hear over and over and over. Good centre-backs win more tackles than they lose. It's as simple whether you're having 70% of 5 tackles or 70% of 25 tackles during a game.
We've made lots of points about defending in space and not defending in space. The type of defending that you have to do is where it's at. But the point of this show, the point of this series, though, is ultimately it's not for us to judge whether they could do it at a higher level. It's who's performed at the highest level this season, and for the job they've done, I see no reason why Michael Keane and Gareth McAuley shouldn't be amongst the options.
If you're thinking of West Brom have had a great season. I know they tailed off a bit at the moment, but they have had a great season, and a Tony Pulis team, their centre-back should be having good seasons. Yeah. And he is the centre-back of that team. And he has had a great season. So I think there's nothing wrong with voting
I'd shoot him in there. And I'm a Villa fan, I'd shoot him in there.
Yeah, well.
So I guess what it will bust down to then, we've got to make a choice. So we've spoken about, 8 different defenders there. We're only allowed to put forward 5 for the voting. Now, I think we can discount Bailly and Van Dijk.
So we're not discounting Lucas.
Oh yeah, 9. We will discount Lucas, unfortunately.
Fix, man.
This leaves us with
absolute fix.
6 players for 5 voting slots. So
you need to remember the badge on the front of that shirt, not the name on the back, lad.
There's no name on the back.
Well, don't forget that.
There's a no name on the back. Vertonghen, Cahill, David Luiz, Toby Alderweireld, Michael Keane, Gareth McAuley. My 5 are Keane, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, McAuley, Cahill. So what we'll do is, because we can't reach consensus on it, the ones with the most and least votes out of there will end up as your 5. You can choose to vote then on who you think. Now this is tricky because we've got to pick 3 people. Vote for your favourite, and the top 3 with the most votes will end up as our 3 centre halves in our team. You click the eye in the corner of the screen to vote, and if you want to kick off with us over anything, you can do. That's what the comments below is for as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Next week we're going to be doing, should we do DM next week? Yeah, why not? So tune in for that. If you want to watch the rest of the show,
how many
in
DMs?
the build up to this,
6.
1. Oh, 2. We'll have to work that one out.
Oh, jeez.
Watch the previous shows you can do, and if you want to get involved with the 50k giveaway, click this video right here. You can win a football shirt of your choice.
It's like Christmas.
Gonna be amazing. It will be like a football shirt related Christmas.
Can you get a Rudstone Villa 1994 shirt?
Absolutely.
Excellent. With Payjack on the back.
Subscribe to the Ball Street YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week for more Social Club.